Maybe the most dramatic scene in the whole movie ends with a fart.
Bing bong!
I had seen that the reviews for The Front Room were not the best. As an A24 propaganda spreading crazy film snob, I had to go see if these reviews were telling the truth because I'm a Rotten Tomatoes guy and the critic score and the audience score for this film, not great, but wanted to see for myself. And I gotta say, everybody was right. The Front Room is a really confusing movie. Not in the sense of the plot itself being confusing, because it's pretty straightforward. It's a story about a couple who the husband's stepmom moves in with them during her final years. She wants to live out her final years with the family, only come to find out that she's actually incredibly jealous of the wife, and the stepmom's also a little bit racist and may or may not place a curse on the unborn child that the mom is carrying. Super simple plot. The problem is that I don't know if this movie ever fully commits in one direction. In some instances, it sort of feels like A24 missed Get Out, and so they kind of want to have their Get Out, like their very topical present day social horror movie. But on the other end of it, it sort of seems like they're kind of aiming for like a weird spoof comedy, like tongue-in-cheek horror movie. I don't know if that can just sort of be seen as like a really easy escape from criticism because this film's a little all over the place. What's confusing about it is that it is fantastically well acted. Kathryn Hunter, who plays the evil stepmother in this movie, is incredible. She is so good. She is so locked in, devoted to her role in this film as this like racist, uber religious, baby possessed by the devil stepmom. Brandy Norwood, who everybody was very excited to see her come back and be in a horror movie, is great. She's really good. These two actors across from each other are fantastic because they're acting across from each other for almost the entire film. There's this great dynamic between them, but the movie itself is like, I don't know, it's like a bad Lifetime movie. And I say that because there are a lot of good Lifetime movies out there, but this one feels like a Lifetime movie with, I guess, a bigger budget, although I'm gonna be totally honest, not that much happens in this movie. In fact, after seeing the trailer, I was more like, how did they manage to make it seem like anything happens in this movie? Realistically, they rented a house. They shot 98% of the movie in the house. Nothing really important happens over the course of the film. They have a couple uncomfortable dinner conversations, one of which ends with the mom farting at the end, which like, you're watching this movie and it's like very serious and uncomfortable in certain parts. And then a very dramatic scene, maybe the most dramatic scene in the whole movie, ends with a fart. Look, I've improved my sense of humor over the years, so I can admit that sometimes farts are funny. But in this instance, in this film, it just felt like they were really just throwing everything they could into the movie to be like, I don't know what this is. So like, if anyone has ideas, just toss them in. Who knows? Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. And it's weird too, because I slept on it. I saw the movie a couple days ago and I slept on it, really thought about what this movie was, because a lot of times I like to see the good in every movie, whether or not it's like abhorrently terrible. I want to like just see if I can find any positivity, and like there are a lot of very interesting dynamics in this film. The son, who says that his stepmom was horrible to him when he was a kid, at the same time lost his dad when he was really young. So there's a very clear dynamic of this man wanting to sort of rekindle some sort of parental relationships that he feels loved and feels like he's being a good son, because I think he probably just didn't get that with his dad having passed away when he was a kid. Then there's the dynamic of Brandy and the mom, Brandy wanting to be accepted by this guy's stepmom because she wants to be accepted by his family. They're having a kid, and she wants to be brought in with open arms. Then there's the dynamic between the stepmom wanting to really feel like she has, like these two are her own children, wanting to feel closer to both of them, and the dynamic between her and Brandy, where she feels like Brandy has stolen her son from her. In all of that, you have like a weird A24, one of those A24 movies that's like set in New York, and it's just a boring drama. Not that boring movies are bad, but it's just one of these brooding dramas between a family that has some very common dynamics that people could probably see within their own family struggles, right? Whatever it might be. Choosing to do this as some sort of weird Rosemary's Baby, possession, evil, Get Out type of horror social commentary movie was an interesting choice. I don't necessarily know that it worked. I don't know if the movie is like terrible, like unwatchably bad, because one of the things that happens on Rotten Tomatoes is like as soon as that rotten logo goes up, regardless of what the tomato meter percentage was, it's all rated the same, right? So it's like even if a movie is rotten 59% or 0%, anyone going to the movie's page is like, oh, it sucks. As soon as you see the logo, you're like, oh, it's garbage. It's a disaster of a movie. And that's not what this movie is. Based on the trailers and based on the premise of the film, it felt like there was a lot of potential here. Sometimes the movie's good, it's unsettling, but then it has a very I kind of want to say predictable or just like safe ending. It's just sort of like forgettable. It's like, whatever. This is one of those things where I think if this was on streaming, I probably don't finish the entire thing. I definitely reached a point about an hour in where I'm like, I don't care about any of these people. Like, I don't care what happens. Everybody could die at the end of the night. I just wouldn't give a shit. It's not what happens, but the direction they go, I think, is either predictable or probably a little bit safe, maybe a little bit of both. I think that if you're an A24 stan like me, it's a very good chance you've probably already seen this movie. And if you're on the fence, I would say go see it just so that you too can also ask yourself the question, what cut of the movie did A24 watch where they were like, we want to be distributing this movie, right? Because in a year where they've distributed Civil War, Love Lies Bleeding, like there have been some phenomenal movies that A24 has distributed this year. And then this is just a clunker. It's like for their bar, their standard, they have just from the outside have created a reputation of like, we put out good movies. You see our logo attached, distributing or whatever, however we were involved, it's going to be a great movie. And this is just sort of like, whatever. Maybe you think it's bad. Maybe you think it's like the worst movie you've ever seen. I just think it was sort of like, yeah, this wasn't great. It wasn't like the worst movie ever, but I don't know. I expected a little bit more from A24. I think that's part of it too, is like A24 doesn't usually put out movies that play it safe. And this is a movie that isn't that creative and does play it pretty safe for the entirety of the film. And it's just a little bit disappointing. I think the front room had potential. And it could have been something significantly more interesting, and it just sort of fell flat.